You can take what you've been through, encapsulate it, utilize it when stuff's going bad. That's why it's that old, like, okay, this is a tough day, tough hour, tough week, but dude, you've been through shit before. Well, and that was always our deal. The land of misfits, dude. We had this us against the world mentality. Whether it was Valor or not, it was like, we are going to get there. We don't care what else thinks. We don't care where this person's from or what that company says or how long they've been in business. Why not us?
Right.
Why can't we achieve?
Yep. All right, welcome to the next level. We got a special guest today, President of FFL, Shawn Meaike.
How you doing, Mike?
Awesome, dude. Thanks for coming up.
Nice shirt, bro.
Yo, this is a throwback right here. That is we're going to talk about in a minute because
Tuesday at 6.
I think this is very important. I think that it's funny to do podcasts in here every week. And, you know, I haven't been in the field in years, neither of you. And I interview some of the top guys in this company, guys and girls, and everything they talk about always boils back down to attitude activity. And when I first met you 15 years ago now, it was crazy as I'm older than you were when we met.
Oh, that's insane.
That's crazy.
It goes by quick, doesn't it?
It does. But I wanted to go back, Shawn. You know, when I met you, you were like 36 maybe. Mm-hmm. You were still working at the state. You were selling part-time, but really a whole nother full-time job. And before we even get into that, I think that's a misconception a lot of people have. They think they can do this part-time. Mm-hmm. When you did this part-time, this was a whole nother full-time job, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be really transparent, you know, I was working the state of Connecticut third shift.
Yeah.
So I'd work 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts, 10 to 10 p.m., 8 a.m., whatever 4 days that was.
Yeah.
I'd get out of work, and I still had a real estate license. So people know so I got my real estate license in my 20s, early 20s. So I was still doing that on the side. So my deal was like, state would pay me, you know, 80 grand with overtime, 90 maybe, maybe crack 100, but I worked a ton. Then I was like, all right, you know what? And so some years in real estate, I made quite a bit more, another couple $100,000, maybe another 80 grand. But I was doing it to supplement my income. I was introduced to life insurance. I didn't dive right into it because I already had like a full-time job and kind of a part-time job.
Right.
My real estate office had a requirement you had to be in there and do what they call floor duty and take calls, that kind of stuff. And so, but I don't know. But when I want to try something, I don't try it like a couple hours a week. So when I was introduced to the business, I thought to myself, you know what, real estate's kind of, this is 08. And, you know, if you live through the market, it was different. Yeah. You know, obviously, I don't blame. I think real estate's a great industry, so it's not like people are like, well, you got out of it because it, you know, what happened in the market. Well, yeah, that definitely affected what I was doing and not doing. But there was still plenty of people made tons of money and stayed in. But I saw it as an opportunity to go, you know what, I'm going to phase out of real estate a little bit. Let me get into calling some leads and see what comes out of this deal. And at that time, my deal was I would dial at that time only Saturday morning. Okay. So I would dial Saturday morning. I'd get up in the morning real early. Did not have an office. I get my car. I dial Preston Park, man, where they had the baseball, football, softball field over there. Yeah. Like in the back, the baseball field's over here, and the softball field in the back, and like the big gazebo back there. You have the picnics. I would dial there, and it's funny because a guy, like the second week I was there, this guy John Shannon drove by in a lawnmower, and I was like, kept looking at him, and I used to work with him forever ago at a garage, and he'd be like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Dude, I just like call these leads." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, I'm in life insurance. I just like I would be there every week. Yeah. Like I couldn't wait. My deal was 8 a.m. Like I was like, I can't, but like I'd be waiting. Like 7:59, boom, and I'd start dialing.
Now, why would you go there and not dial at home?
Kids, man, it was just chaotic. And I wanted to be, when I was dialing, I wanted to be dialing. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like I only wanted to be dialing. Like I didn't want to be worrying about everything else in the world that was going on. I wanted to focus only on dialing. And I think that for me, I started doing that, and at first I was dialing like from 8 to whatever, 1, 2, or 3, and I'd have appointments for Sunday and Monday. Okay. And I'm like, but I would be like Sunday morning from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We were in home. Yep. So it was every hour on the hour. So I would and I was, 15, 20, 25 minutes, 30. I wasn't there for hours. Like you fill this out. Here's what we have. Boom. And then some people I certainly knew weren't going to buy or weren't going to be there. And with those 2 days a week, I was making some money. I mean, and then I went to 3 days a week. And then before you knew it, I was working 4 days a week in insurance full time, 4 days a week at the state full time. I mean, I'd roll into the state like at night. I'd get a couple hours sleep, going to work. I'd be tired, man.
I bet.
Like, I mean, and I wasn't in the field that time. I was supervising.
Yeah.
So I'd just be sitting in my office, kind of like the phone would ring really busy till like 2 a.m. because people would be partying and whatever, and the bars would close. And it would be about 3 o'clock to about 6 a.m. we get a little break. But I'd be sitting in my chair just like, somebody just
were
like,
you napping in between
you ain't
calls?
gonna lie to you, bro. My phone would be like right here. It was as loud as it gets. I'd leave it right there, and I'd be like, and then it would just, because that was my job to be on the phone. If the phone didn't ring, there was nothing for me to do. And then that was how I was working when I first got in. And what people don't know is when the market did what it did in 2008, when you work a state job, they're very reactive from a budgetary standpoint. So like they were like, hey man, we're gonna have some mandatory layoffs. And I was like, wow, I wonder if I got late, like how long I've been here. And there's some people that have been there like forever.
Yeah.
Like I thought I had some seniority. I was like, damn, they've been here forever. And so then they gave us an opportunity to take a leave, unpaid, but that you didn't lose your job.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, man, how long can you take it for? Like up to a year. So I was like, all right, I know I can make money selling life insurance. Like real estate I've kind of phased out of. I own a lot of property still.
You've been selling life insurance for how long at this point?
8-9 months.
Okay.
But full time, like you said, I was full time. I'm not trying to like, when people are like, I'm a full time job, it's 40 hours a week, dude. My mom worked 3 full time jobs growing up. It's cute. Like I watched my mom work. I never seen anybody work like my mom. So like I learned that work ethic by watching her and what she did, and then I also watched how hard those jobs were on her. And how she was held to those schedules. Like she was always moving from one to another. Never, just locked into being able to have to pay the bills for me and my brother. And so when I was doing 40 and 40, so I was already working 80.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, man, like now I don't have this other job. Shit, I can kind of get in this thing and do 60, 70, 80 here. What's going to happen?
Right.
And what I did, man, it took off.
When you first got your license, you started selling, making some money. What was your goal at that point with life insurance?
If I don't think I had one, Mike.
No.
I really don't. All I ever wanted to do was provide a better life for my kids and not worry about money. Yeah. And my job at the state didn't allow me to do that. And I did like my job. You know what I mean? Like I as a child protective services worker, I dealt with abused, neglected children, open case. It was hard, but I liked advocating for the safety of children. Like that was a big deal for me. But I knew I could never be free financially with that job.
Yeah.
And that's why I got the real estate license. And there were years it would just be up and down. I'm like, God, it's just like is this really the deal? Is this going to work? Is it not going to work?
What was your best year in real estate?
At that time back then, if I'd made another couple $100,000 in a year in sales, 3 or 4, which don't get me wrong, it's good.
Yeah.
But then next year might have been 60. It depends on what I was doing. But I was also taking all the money I was making too and buying real estate.
Okay.
So while you might go like, what'd you make? Well, dude, I started kind of transitioning into building a real estate portfolio, which I did sell a very long time after that.
Yeah.
And I did very well in that. I'm very blessed that worked out well. And I was, handling the property management of it. And that was just like kind of being a social worker as well, like dealing with people and figuring out the deal. But so it was a very up and down deal,
Got it.
But when I got into it, I'm like, I just really I want to provide a life where I'm not worried about money.
Yeah.
That's it. Like there was no, I'm going to hit a number, I'm going to hit a goal. Like even when I try to look back on it now, they had levels to hit and stuff. So I'm competitive.
Yeah.
Now I will tell you, the minute I went full time, the very first thing I did, I was like, all right, who's the number one producer in the company?
I remember that.
Like, I was like, dude, who is the guy, right? Yeah. And when I found out who it was, I'm like, how much does he do?
Right.
And everybody's like, here's how much does. I'm going to be number one. That's like, so it really wasn't even I need to make, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this and I'm competing, so I'm very competitive, that dude's number one, I want to be number one.
Yeah. And that first full year, you made over $300K.
Yeah.
Just selling.
Just selling.
Didn't have much of a team.
And
right?
it was not a Family First Life compensation program.
No.
It was not a Family First Life bonus program. The deals weren't the size of the deals that we write at Family First Life. It was quite a bloodbath to get to $300,000 like you were. I mean, I had paper apps this size, stacks walking in, and it's a different deal.
Yeah. And going back to what we talked about earlier, attitude, activity. I'm wearing this shirt Tuesday at 6. Not because Tuesday is my favorite day, but there was a training you did years ago, and you were talking about, I think the training was even called attitude, activity. You were talking about the mindset. And I look at, I've known you for a long time, Shawn. One of the biggest lessons that you taught me was you believed in me before I did.
100%.
Right? And then you taught me to be confident. I always had a work ethic, but I didn't always have the best attitude. Mm-hmm. And in this business, especially our company, you can't have one without the other. You work your ass off, but your attitude sucks, you're not going to sell.
Correct.
You're the best attitude. We've had these guys, best attitude, they're so positive. But God, when it comes time to work, oh God, no, hold on, let me read some more. That doesn't work either. But I like to say you help break a broke mindset, right? How did you do that for yourself?
Well, I think, first of all, inherently, most people have one. And I think I watched a lot of the people I grew up with and around me have a very, very, very negative and broke mindset. When I say broke mindset, to me, they were very focused on what they couldn't accomplish, why they couldn't do it. When something went wrong, they seemed to love that, like, they got to complain about it. They got to commiserate with each other about it. And I just always saw I'm going to make it happen no matter what. That was my deal. And I wasn't running my mouth about it. I believe it to my core. Still to this day. It doesn't matter what it is. You can try it, but you're not going to convince me otherwise. And I think that I was when I saw the attitudes those people had and I saw the lack of success, to me it was pretty simple. I'm like, well, why would I ever replicate or duplicate something that I don't want the result of? Like, that was always weird to me. I'm like, you watch the result, why would you replicate what they're doing when you don't even like the result? And also, I didn't care what anybody thought. Like, and when I say that, I don't mean like I wasn't going to run my life based on, well, you should or you shouldn't. Like, I'm going to do the best I can. That's all I can do. Like, if you think, like, when I got a real estate, everybody said I shouldn't do it. And I was really young, so I think a lot of people they were more comfortable. When I had life insurance, I think a lot of people ran their mouths about it. They just didn't run their mouth to me.
Right. But
they ran their mouths. And I think what I started to look around is like, man, there's so many good people that give up because they just give in. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that the greatest gift I got was, I paid quite a bit of money to get around very successful, wealthy people. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of really good takeaways of things they taught me. And I mean that. I mean, some massive, that's when I met Dave Anderson, Arthur Blank owns the Falcons, Ed Bashan, CEO Delta. I mean, like, there's some, but what really struck me about them was they're not smarter than me. Like, I had this idea growing up that I was going to work really hard, but obviously very successful people were much smarter than me. And then when I started getting around them, I was like, doesn't mean they're not smart, but I'm like, they're not like smarter than the rest. I feel like they didn't go invent. These are people that worked really hard and had a really good attitude. Yep. They could make decisions. They had courage. They're willing to stand up, to make those decisions. And I'm thinking, I can do all that. So it really validated for me the fact that anybody could go be successful.
Right.
And I think that was what I wanted to instill in you and everybody else I met, especially when I met people. And I'm like, God, he's like, when I met you, I was like, you're really smart. You seem to be a really good dude. I didn't know if you're a hard worker. I didn't watch you work yet, but you said you were. I didn't really have any reason to doubt you. And I like what you stood for. So I'm like, why do I look at him that way? And I can see the way he doesn't look at himself. So I feel like that's kind of part of my job, is to breathe life into him and go to why aren't you doing better? And I've never thought that your success was my responsibility. I thought my best effort to give you honest and constructive feedback, be there for you, and not put my needs over yours, and be strong enough to give you an opinion. I thought that was my job. I didn't think like how do I let you down? As long as I did that, I wasn't letting you down.
Right.
Whatever you did with that information, you did. I never was that egotistical to think, well, he did good and that's because I'm great, or this one didn't do good because I failed. No, I do everything I can and say, here's what I've done. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. I don't know. You got to figure out what your deal is. But, man, it's heartbreaking to see people that are so good and talented not believe completely in their abilities.
Yeah. And I'd say, looking back, that was the biggest thing that I got from you. You know, I think a lot of times we focus on the wrong things. Like, how do I get better at sales? You know, what do I say when they say this? Me and you never sat down and I went, you know, Shawn, when they give me this objection, what do? We didn't have those conversations. It was all about this. I remember the first time dialing. I was at my house on Squire Street. You remember this place?
That. Remember the pad.
Like 3 rooms that were done. The rest was, the forever remodeling house.
Yeah.
And I had a stack of leads, the batch. It was a bunch of leads that you probably had for a year or 2 or more.
Beat them down.
Right?
Yeah.
And these are the best leads you're going to get. Like, at this point. But I remember.
They were free. Were they free?
They were free, dude.
They're always good if they're free.
They were great. They were free 99. I dialed through them probably, I don't know, half hour maybe. Didn't get anything. I called you up. I don't know if you remember this. You said, take the stack of leads, go in your bathroom, look in the mirror, and tell yourself you book everyone you speak to.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, like, dude, I'm going to tell you what Tommy said, and you're going to tell me how to overcome that. And, when they say I didn't fill it out, what do I say to that? You didn't say any of that shit. You said, go in the mirror and tell yourself this, and then get back on the phone. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if people can understand that, it is that simple.
It is.
I think a lot of it, for me, it was the fearing failure. So I looked at it as, if I'm that confident and I believe I can do this, well, what if I don't?
Correct.
Now, you're very confident, but do you always achieve everything you say you're going to?
Of course not.
So in those moments when you don't, how do you handle that?
Could care less.
Why?
Why not? I gave it everything I got.
Yeah.
And if I look back and go, I could have done things differently, I'll change them.
Sure.
But I'm not defined, and I think it's a great question or a great point that you made, because I think that's what gets people, is this idea, like, I would go try it, but damn, what if I fail?
Right.
And failing's bad. Like, we're raised to, like, this whole failing's bad. And I think the blessing I had as a kid was I really early was like, dude, I'm not mad at any of these people around me, but I'm not going to emulate the things they're doing. I don't want to be where they are. And that means that I'm going to have to be responsible for me at a very young age. Like, I'm going to, and that's from everybody. Like, you didn't get good grades. I'm like, am I got good enough grades to play baseball? Yeah, okay then.
Right.
And I also learned that people would, the irony was, I'm like, you know what? They're still going to let me play baseball or football, even if and they're just want me to perform. And I was okay with that. I'm like, as long as I play ball and I do well, they're going to be okay with me. Like, they don't, whatever my grades are, they're always going to lecture me on having good grades or bad grades, which means they really didn't care. Not that, like, I need them to lecture me, but they weren't like, oh my God, give it. They were just like, he'll play for as long as he plays with us, and then, like, he'll move on and do something else in his life if he's successful. And I also thought people were betting against me. So I always kind of felt like behind, like, or under their breath, they're like, dude, he's just a kid from, like, single mom apartment. They broke, they ain't got nothing.
Right.
And he ain't going to be nothing. And I didn't believe that.
Yeah.
And I think that I had this anger. Like, when people are like, well, it's not good to have a chip on your shoulder. I'm like, it's worked for me. So I don't tell you, like, it's just worked for me. But I've never been afraid of failure at all. Like, because I think that what I was afraid of, I watched a lot of people, again, around me that were very afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to be that way. If I was going to make mistakes, fall on my face, and I remember we started the company, I said, we're either going to have one hell of a company and build it and an unbelievable success, or we're going to go down in a ball of flames. But either way, we're going to do something.
Yeah. One
One of these two things is going to happen. And that's just kind of how I'm going to do the best I can every day. The only one that can judge me is God, and I'm not, like, going to preach to anybody, but I know that I believe that in my heart of hearts. I know that that's my judge. I have no doubt I will be judged. There's no confusion on that either for me. But it's not going to be by everybody else here. Like,
Right.
You're a human being like me, man. Like y'all human beings. We're all human, and I think that as long as you're giving it the best shot you got, and the beautiful thing about sales is it changes so fast. Like, when people say failure, I kind of go, what's your definition of failure? The only way you can fail is to quit.
Right.
And that was always my thing. Like, dude, you're not failing. Okay, you haven't had the best day, week, or month, or quarter, or year.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're still here.
Right.
You're still standing. Like, I can remember going to that house and showing the plan. You Hector.
Yep.
Hector.
Hector.
What's his brother's name?
Fernando.
I can never. I was trying to tell
Yep.
the story the other day with a guy, and I'm like, dude, I can never remember his brother's name, Hector and Fernando. But I can remember drawing out what we do,
Yep.
and I can remember thinking, I wish these guys would believe in themselves. Like, dude, I don't care where they come from. I don't care who raised them. I don't care what they've been through. And I had the benefit of having years on y'all.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm like, dude, as long as you stay in the fight.
Right.
And but I'm telling you, Mike, it was the money I spent to get around people. It demystified it for me, because I'm like, dude, I can remember sitting with people that like are billionaires, and I'm like, they're like, what do you think? I'm like, I think I can do this too, because y'all are like regular people.
Right.
And the ones that, and I love when they were like, yeah, like it's true. But the problem with the attitude is a lot of people can have it when it's good. You can have a good attitude when it's good. And I think the magic for me, and this will frustrate people because they're like, well, you're just always in a good mood. No, it's not that I just always see what we can accomplish.
Yeah.
Dude, there's plenty of people out there that are going to tell you how you can fail. You don't need one more of those.
Right.
But I'm going to be the person going, no, I can see you having success.
Yeah.
No, I can see the success, man. I can see you doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Couple big things. The whole, if you gave it your all, then who cares?
Doesn't matter.
That's always been my thing with my kids in sports. Like, I didn't play a lot of sports. I boxed and wrestled.
Yep.
So I'm not going to tell you how to play basketball, but the only time I ever upset is if they went out and didn't give it their all. You may not get the best results, but did you give it your all when you were out there?
Hey, the first year that Vonnie played basketball in middle school,
Yep.
was that a success? It was.
Yes.
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 Was that a success in life?
100%.
Why was it a success?
Because he didn't give it his all. He was out there. He got better. He learned. He was a disaster in the beginning.
Doesn't matter. Did he overcome his fears?
Yep.
Did he get to meet some other people and forge some friendships and build better social communication?
Absolutely.
Did he get to stay in an environment that was uncomfortable?
Yes.
Did he quit? No.
Nope.
That was an unbelievable success.
Right.
How many points did he score his first year?
Maybe two.
Maybe two. But if you ask me from a success standpoint,
Yep.
your son had an unbelievable year.
Absolutely.
He got more acclimated.
Yep.
He got more aggressive. Like so it's not like, and that's what I think for people, if you would ask me, like, which I did tell y'all, what a successful year, man.
Yeah.
And I was hard on him to just keep growing.
Right.
Not hard on him to have many points or whatever. Like, just keep growing, bro. Mm-hmm. But he was overcoming his uncomfortableness. And when he did, he became more comfortable, more aggressive, more focused. And then, listen, it's what allowed him to continue to go play sports.
Yeah. Well, then he came home and said, I want to play football. I said, like, where they hit each other? And then he went from same thing there, afraid to hit anyone till, oh, shit, he doesn't even leave the field anymore. He's on offense and defense.
Let me be clear. He wasn't afraid to hit people. He did play basketball like it was football.
That's true.
So in fairness, like, I'm actually not surprised. I'm like, dude, we are playing basketball here. You know what I mean? But once he got comfortable, it was like, oh, wait a minute, man. There's a young man in there that's aggressive. And we just got to find a way to go, like, you can't push him into the wall in basketball.
Right.
Foul.
I remember you asking
foul.
him, can you not foul out in the first half anymore?
Yeah, like, let's just like stay in the game a little bit longer, you know. And listen, from a guy that I'm a football, baseball guy, and I was angry at my coaches for making me play basketball in high school because I'm like, dude, I don't even like it.
Yeah.
Like basketball, I wanted to just drink, go to the games, get ready for baseball, meaning just drink. I'd be ready for baseball. Let's drink 7 days a week, and baseball practice starts. So I understand liking a foul, dude. I understand. I mean, I was able to more apt to foul out than my buddies because they were scoring, X amount of points a game. Their deal was like, if there's a foul, that's what you always see, like, put your hand up. My coach, I'm like, why do I got to put my hand up? He's like, we want him to call it on you and not them. And I was like, oh, yeah, you don't want them out of the game. He's like, no, so if they blow the whistle, just put your hand up. Like, it might have been you. I was like, all right, might have been you. So I started coaching, put your hand up. Like, why, coach? I'm like, you're not as good as he is. I was you. Just put your hand up. Let's hope they call it on you than somebody else. But, dude, it was a successful season for him.
Absolutely.
Very.
Yep. You mentioned not caring what people think. And I read this a few years ago, and it really, I think this is the best I've heard it put. People care so much about what other people think about them those people don't even know how to feel about themselves.
Yeah.
And we're worried about their opinions.
Yeah.
And it's crippling to some people.
They don't even live their life because they're so focused on that.
Yeah.
They're looking around all the time to figure out what people think and what they don't think. And you know, it's unfortunate that we're like that. And it's unfortunate that I'm a big fan of, if I don't know or I've not been in those shoes, you know, I think I just kind of like to watch, you know, meaning, and people ask me too, I'm like, I don't know. Like, if you ask me something, I'm like, dude, I never walked in your shoes. I don't know the answer to that, you know? So I might know somebody that does, and I can try to ask them to talk to you. But if I don't know, I just sit back, because there's enough people. You know, I had a guy one day say to me, you know, the only thing people like more than building somebody up is tearing them down. And it's so true,
right?
You know, and I think that you just do the best thing, best you can on a daily basis. And, you know, I was talking to Gary the other day, works with us, and I was like, dude, what was your biggest struggle? And he was like, just what everybody said before I got, like, into insurance sales. Like, everybody told me how stupid it was and how it doesn't work. And they always laugh, and they're like, what a terrible industry. I'm like, one in which everybody's going to die, and
Right.
they fill out leads, and we help their family in, like, the worst situation in the world when somebody's died. And okay, like, I just don't even, like, you can't even respond. It's so ludicrous.
Right.
Like, there's nothing to even say, you know? And so I think that I've just developed that, and a lot of people say, well, I don't care. I'm like, you do. And I just don't. I'm going to dial. I'm going to do. That's why I never worried about what I was going to do. Was I was going to do the best I could. Of course, there'd be 5 other people that would think. And I was like, when they were like, hey, you know what I was thinking? I'm like, didn't ask your opinion, bro.
Right.
I'm dialing the phone. I make more sales than you. So not even remotely interested. I'm not mad at you. I'm not, but don't come at me with your BS.
Right.
Like, go, like, now if you're outselling me,
Sure.
tell me, bro. Like, I'm taking notes. Like, what did I not? Like,
Right.
I'm totally good. As long as you're a better result than me in that, then I'm going to take your advice in that.
Right.
That's it.
You've always been really protective about your time.
Yeah.
And, you know, you talk about you can have an off year off. Like, dude, I've known you for 15 years. I've seen you have a bad hour. I've seen you had a bad moment. I've never seen you have a bad day, bad month, bad week. And I read that in I think it was a Zig Ziglar book years ago. Like, dude, have a bad moment. Shit happens. There's things that happen that absolutely suck. Live there for an hour and move past it. It's easy to say, though, but I've seen you do this for years. How do you do that?
Perspective. I am that same book I read from, and the same book that makes me know that that's my only judge and that all things are possible. Start thinking about what other people are actually going through, right? You know, if a couple hundred people die every day and I'm alive, okay, for an hour, for a few minutes, like you said, I'm pissed, I'm frustrated, something happened. But dude, I'm a big perspective person.
Yeah.
And also, I'm actually genuinely afraid. I'm afraid that, and not from any of y'all humans, I'm afraid that if I just start running around bitching, moaning, complaining about everything all the time, and there's other people going through real shit, like, I don't know that I want to will that upon me. Like, I'm just like, I want to do the best I can, but I think that, you know, when I've been through a lot, and a lot of people have in life, you know, I mean, I've been sober 24 plus years. As many times that I'm surprised I woke up alive and not incarcerated. And there's a lot of things that have happened in my life that I was talking to Gary about flipping a quad. He's like, yeah, I remember hearing about that. I'm like, dude, I can, well, you know, you were, but like, I'm like, I don't know, man. I just think that there's a purpose, and I'm supposed to, and I think we all have our own gifts. And I'm just kind of like, dude, I'm a big perspective guy. So, you know, you want to have a bad day around me, I mean, you can, but I am going to, just so you know, I hear you, but I understand what you're saying. Like, I validate what you're saying. Like, I get it. I validate what you're feeling. I validate what you're going through. You're not making the sales. This is happening here. This is what you're going through in life. I validate all that. But then I provide you some perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm not dismissing how you feel. You have the right to feel how you feel. I'm validating it, but I'll tell you what. There's a couple 100,000 families that right now lost somebody today.
Right.
I don't know.
I just hear that guy from The Hangover. But did you die?
Yeah, that was me. But did you die? As I said to my friends, I was drinking. If I'm like, I got it. It was bad last night.
Right.
But did anybody die?
Right.
We're all here. Like you don't even know about it. Like, I'm like, dude, I get it. Like, you're not supposed to jump off a roof. And I know he shot at you with a nail gun, but it was funny. And like, but did you die? So yeah, no, it's all perspective.
And you also, you've never been the guy to ride the highs either. Mm-hmm. Like, looking back, I mean, it's FFL's 11 years now. We've been through a lot. We've been through ups, downs, losing carriers, gaining carrier, lead companies, catching on fire. Everything you can think of, name it. We've gone through. Now, I mean, you've been crazy successful, multiple businesses, the whole deal. Always talk about the why, right? You need to have a big why to have success in this or in any business. Mm-hmm. I know your why has changed over the years. Initially, it was take care of your kids. You've done 100%. That and then some, right? Mm-hmm. What drives you to this day now? You did a deal with integrity. Life's great. You're still here every day. You're still working your ass off. Why?
You know, if you're blessed in any way, I think you have an obligation to bless people. Because if you're blessed and you went through whatever it happens to be, like if you're talented in A, B, or C, and you're blessed enough to have success in it, I think you're then obligated to help other people in that area because you've been able to do it. So I think it's an obligation. Yeah. I think that I see there are people that start every day, man. I still am as excited if I'm at a valet and some guy comes up to me and parks car and I'm like, how you been? And you can tell by being nice to him, he's excited.
Yeah. Which
means everybody else is not being nice to him. And then you give him a tip and he's like out of his mind. And I give him whatever. If I give him a $100 bill, he's like losing his mind. And I'm like, dude, you work really hard. I know what it's like to work for tips. Like I'll never forget that. Then I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute. This is like, or when they say, do you give somebody $10, $20? Like, you made my night, you made my week. You're like, dude, that's $20. Right. But like, you made that person's week. So I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. Think about how unhappy this, right? So for me, I'm as excited recruiting them today. And I was out of my mind recruiting 15 years ago. Yeah. But I'm just as excited today. And even though we had not had any result 15 years ago, I just started. Or even if you go back to 11 years ago with FFL, I just knew we were going to make it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, yeah, I joke, like, but I was like, we're not going to quit. Like, we're going to make it. So for me, Mike, there's so many more people that deserve the opportunity. Yeah. And I think also a lot of people give up on themselves. They don't think they can be in sales. And I'm like, guys, when you're, I've been in sales. When you're calling leads, you're taking orders. You're not, it doesn't mean everybody places an order, but they kind of have placed an order to fill out a leads. Now you just got to go out there and call them up and figure it out. That's why Tuesday at 6, no matter what they said, I'm like, see you Tuesday at 6, see you Tuesday at 6. Sounds good. See you Tuesday at 6. Didn't matter what it was. And I think that there's so much more to do. Yeah. And I think that, and I enjoy it, like, immensely. Yeah. So if I enjoyed immensely, there's so many more people to help. Why wouldn't I keep doing it? And also, and everybody's different, but I don't know that I'm fired up to not work. Yeah. I just don't know. It's not like everybody's like, well, this so-and-so stopped working. It's like everybody keeps working long. It's like, well, it's because so-and-so stopped working. He died 3 days later. Like, I don't know that I don't know that everybody dies when they stop working. Like, I'm not saying people, he retired, man. He just purpose went away. I'm like, or he was also sick. Like, like, I'm not
cancer,
saying,
bro.
He also had something going on, dude. I'm not saying like it didn't, but like everybody, it's not that. It's like, I want purpose too. Yeah. So, and I think the ultimate is when you still want to help as many people as you can, even though it's like you said, dude, 15 years ago, it was to pay legitimately pay bills. Right. Like, legitimately, like, when I got my real estate license, I was working at the state, it was to make sure I could buy formula for my kids. Like, it was to make sure I could pay the oil bill. I could pay the car insurance. Like, it wasn't funding 401ks and putting money away. It was paying bills. Right. So, yeah, it's not that anymore, but it's like, and I've been very blessed and had a lot of success, and it's been amazing, but it's to let people know, especially, I think a lot of times the underdogs, the world, and I was trying to explain this to a group the other day. I'm not saying try, and I think I did it good, but like, someone were just to look at me like, you have people that have gone through stuff in life, and I think they have an edge. You see a lot of people, and you're like, man, he went through that, and she went through that, and he went through that. Whatever it happens to be, the way you were raised, something else you went through. And then there's folks that, and good for them, good for them. I'm not mad. They're like, dude, I've just kind of really had a good life. Like, and that's good. Like, nobody should be mad. And they probably still have their own stuff, but they have a really good life. And I'm like, a lot of times, the people I was growing up with, they believed they were going to be the favorites, right? They had a great life, mom, dad, everybody did really well, and that's cool. No dysfunction, really to speak of. But I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, dude, you didn't know you were the underdog. I was the favorite. But you thought you were the favorite, which made you put you even more in trouble. You're like, well, it's just going to work out because of who this person is or that. It's like, no, dude, I'm over here starving.
Right.
Like, I'm going to smoke you. I'm freaking starving, dude. And I think for me, there's so many people out there thinking that they got no shot. They don't even think they're underdog. Like, I got no shot. It's like, no, dude, you actually have more of a shot.
Right.
You can take what you've been through, encapsulate it, utilize it when stuff's going bad. That's why it's that old, like, okay, this is a tough day, tough hour, tough week, but dude, you've been through shit before.
Right.
So now that you've been through it before, well, and that was always our deal. We're like, I was a joke when we say we're the band, like the land of misfits, dude. But they're, people. I'm like, I'm an idiot. You might be an idiot, Mike, but I'm your idiot. You're my idiot. Like we're doing this thing.
Right.
And we had this us against the world mentality. Whether it was valid or not, it was like, we are going to get there. We don't care what else thinks. We don't care where this person's from or what that company says or how long they've been in business. Why not us?
Right.
Why can't we achieve?
Yep. And here we are, 11 years later.
Amen.
On the brisk of hitting $1 billion
We're
this
gonna
year
hit
in
it.
sales.
We're crushing it.
It's been a hell of a ride. We were like the little giants.
Yeah, we definitely were. That's
dude,
a good
I
analogy.
just want to say I appreciate you for leading the
Appreciate
charge,
you.
and I think that's lost on a lot of people sometimes. Like I get it. You guys out there working their ass off, they deal with things, but we wouldn't have this company if 11 years ago you didn't decide to break away from where we were, go all in here when we weren't sure if we were going to make it another week, and 11 years later here we are. 2 point with almost 3 billion sold in 11 years.
Yeah.
A lot of families impacted. So appreciate you for leading us all these years, dude.
I appreciate you, Mike. I mean, I think it's one of those things where when you look at what y'all have done, and I think back to that old place, you lived in, and I think of that guy.
Yeah.
And I look at you now, and I look at what y'all have accomplished and how you run everything here. And as much as, you don't know, like, you never thought I had a bad day, bad week, or bad month. But some of those bad hours are really bad. But having guys like you there, sometimes you were the only one.
Yeah.
Me and you in the office,
A lot of times, bro.
Like, a lot of times it was the two of us.
We didn't have all this.
No, man, we didn't have any of this.
Nope.
No. And you don't know what your belief in me and what we were doing, you don't know what it meant.
Yeah.
To me. It was, there were times, dude, it was, but, it's my job to not let you know either.
Yeah.
But I love what you do, love your family, love you, bro, and I appreciate you, man.
Love you too, bro. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
bud.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with your agents and go to fflconvention.com now. Get registered for the next event. But appreciate you, dude.
Appreciate
Love
you,
seeing
man.
you. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, thanks for joining. You know where to find us every week right here on The Next Level. We'll see you next week.